Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hard Things Podcast. This is your host, Blaine Burgess, and this is episode 90. Today's topic, the I am statement, I am the light of the world, and healing the blind man. So we're getting pretty down low to the end of this series of episodes here. And I'm getting pretty excited for the next set. Like always, maybe getting a little bit ahead. I still got to bring this one home to my own satisfaction. But I think the topic of light and being able to see is pretty important for a few reasons. First, the most obvious, our sense of sight, being able to see using our eyes. It might be the second cranial nerve, but it is the most important. It takes up the most energy and brain power and everything, like our field of vision, being able to see, being able to contrast things, being able to detect danger, being able to see things that will help us survive, like finding food in an environment. Our sight evolved this way because it is so important. But I will say sometimes our eyes and our senses play tricks on us. And even someone that's blind can be more spiritually aware and truly understand the truth more so than someone that has their eyesight. So there's multiple types of sight, and we'll get into it. So I think we'll just hop in with the story of healing the blind man. So the background on this blind man, he was blind at birth. So at this point, I think Jesus had healed someone from blindness that, could see at one point and then went blind. But being blind from birth says that, there's a structural issue from birth that is likely causing this. In the show The Chosen, the blind man has just like the whites of his eyes. There's no, pupil or iris that you can see. And I think they do that on purpose for the imagery of when the guy can see, he has an iris and a pupil. And something happened more than, oh, there was a little something wrong and we fixed it. Like, this was a full reversal. And that's really important to understand. And so the story continues. So the man's healed of his blindness. And the Pharisees bring him into the temple. So not only was he healed on the Sabbath, which is forbidden, but he's done something that technically shouldn't be possible. So they're looking to verify. They find that guy's parents, like, hey, he was blind from birth. Yes. And they verify everything, and their reaction is, this man's a criminal. He healed on the Sabbath, instead of realizing the power that was in front of them. It's almost like the power's too great. The light is so bright that we'd rather just close our eyes to it. I know this feeling very well. I think it happened to me very early on in life. Light was so bright for me that it made the darkness just as kind of dark. And when you're just a kid and there's not really anyone around that understands, it's very heavy to hold. But, and I'm certain I'm not the only person that's ever felt that way. But I get it. Like, sometimes, like, having sight doesn't guarantee that you're not going to close your eyes. Even though you know what's on the other side of your eyelids, you just don't want to open up. And this is something I think it's hard to have empathy for, but it's crucial. It's like one of the most unforgivable things. And therefore, we have to work super, super hard to be able to forgive it. And this is kind of the turning point in Jesus' story where he starts to do things that are truly unbelievable and truly, like, remarkable, extraordinary, to the point where, you know, there's a line drawn in the sand and there's just no way you could be on the side with your eyes closed to choose willfully, you know, unless you're just afraid. And it's fair to be afraid. It's a very human thing to be afraid, but we don't have the luxury of staying afraid. So I think that's really the kind of the point of this, and it's like the turning point in Jesus' story where he starts to do more and more unbelievable things. And looking at this statement, I am the light of the world. So in the Bible, Jesus says it at the tabernacle, or the Feast of the Tabernacles, when people are outside and eating outside they're like feasting out there to remind themselves of when their forefathers were in the wilderness and how lucky they are now to have shelter. And every night at dark, they used to light these giant bonfires to light up the night. And when the bonfire went out, I believe that's when Jesus said, I'm the light of the world. And it's you know, even when the night is at its darkest and there's no bonfire, like, the light of the world is still there. It's still working. It may not be loud. A lot of times it can't be loud. To be able to do its job, it can't be seen. It can't be apparent to you. Like, it feeds on your faith. It feeds on your ability to stay faithful even when everything around you is going to shit, essentially. So being able to follow Jesus' example, even at the worst times, is the crucial part. And that's what the statement is about. And even if Jesus asks you, I think this is crucial. I had a conversation with someone earlier today. This person, I believe, is very special. Like, has a unique capacity for healing. The person is studying to be a chiropractor. Was telling me about frustration, about relationships. I'm assuming there's a desire for this person to have a relationship, to be able to explore, to be able to love another human and do so safely. And quite frankly, there's just no safe. The basis of human nature is that we'll never feel safe. Like, your faith covers the gap. If you're feeling, for lack of a better term, a tingle in your Pringle for somebody, it should terrify you. But you should also know that God, the light of the world, has your back. As bad as it might get, you're going to be okay. No question. As long as you listen to that little inner light that you have, don't let your ego pull you off of it. If you know that you have to cut something off, or if you know that you're okay and you can keep going. Like, you have to do that no matter how bad it scares you, no matter how embarrassed you may be at the result, no matter, like, you have to, when someone's willfully closing their eyes and God wants you to help them try to open their eyes, you have to do whatever it is that you feel is necessary at that time, because that's what God is putting on your heart. And of course, you also have to hold yourself to a standard. Like, there's the laws of society and things that will get you put in jail. And that's like kind of an easy one to adhere to because it's written out. Wherever you live, you can go look up the laws against what you can do. But you can get creative. A lot of times physical violence is not possible in this world that we live in. But if someone is emotionally abusing you, like to the point where you have physical symptoms, this is something that I struggled with greatly. In my last little relationship, I had an opportunity to cause deep pain to somebody. And the opportunity was so blatant, so easy, just there from my grasp. And I thought to myself, I was like, this can't be what it is it's supposed to happen. And I basically said, like, I kind of prayed. I was like, hey, if this is what you want me to do, to like hurt somebody, to open their eyes, like, just make it abundantly clear. Like, don't make me have to discern this. Like, tell me what it is I'm supposed to do. And I ended up taking the opportunity. I did something that I knew was going to hurt someone to try to help open their eyes after months of, avoiding that at all costs. And I felt terribly guilty for it, and I had a lot of shame about it. But ever since then, every time I meditate on it, I don't feel anger or pain or like grief. When I meditate on it, I feel like I was obedient to what it is. God was trying to reach this person. And, I know that I did the right thing because of how terrible I felt about it personally and how I was just forgiven for that. There's things in my life that I've done where I did a terrible thing and it wasn't what God wanted, and I could feel that guilt and it never went away. And it was like there for so long, and then eventually it was forgiven, like after a long time. This one was like I was holding on to the guilt longer than it was necessarily being put on me. I was almost doing it as a reflex. If anything, the only thing I felt was fear because I knew what I did and what that meant that this person was probably going to do in response. And it ended up happening. But there was an opportunity for forgiveness that was passed by. So I didn't necessarily kill it as much as I invited the end because it was the only way that something was going to change. And I kind of felt this from this person that I was talking to today. And it just made me realize that there's a lot of people out there loving people that don't get the same level of openness in return, and a lot of people that are frustrated. And talking about this might be able to help someone who feels equally as frustrated or is wrestling with this same guilt and not letting it go. And it's if anything, it's like confirmational to me. The more that I do this kind of thing, the more I am obedient to those feelings, like doing things I really don't want to do that I know are going to have bad outcomes, but are ultimately for the greater good in the long run. Being very uncomfortable in the present to, spur something greater in the future, I think is, it's just excellent. And excellent in a way that's just terrifying. And if anything, now the thing I'm terrified of is thinking that I'm in the same situation and then doing the bad thing, and it turns out I had somehow gaslit myself. So, not that I'm like scared, but I'm trusting myself more and more every day. And I was able to, I think, come across to this person, like to get them to do the same thing, to trust themselves. And it's like using your desire as a guide in some way, and then also when the fear comes up, the fear of the consequences, like you have to understand, are you afraid because you know you shouldn't be doing it, or are you afraid of the consequences? Like your mind's made up, but you just don't want the result. And that tells you everything you need to know if you're doing the right thing or not. And there's no laws or relationship experts or whoever that can tell you the right thing to do. And I say laws, and I mean like go back to slavery. People owning people is not right, but the law said it was right. And then eventually a bunch of people broke that law repeatedly to free slaves. So that's what I mean. And an example of modern day version is like what marriage is now is more like a method of control. And that's because for a long time, men used it as a way to control women. Now women have flipped the institution to control men a lot of times. And the amount of marriages that are actually rooted in God and not meant to control, but really to build something, to build a family, they're just fewer and fewer as the years go on. And people are just reducing society to this game of control. And so yeah, I think I was able to shine some light on this with this person and make them feel a little bit better, and just encourage them to, like, whatever they desire, like, go after it and know that you might get hurt and know that it's worth the risk. And God needs us to work on each other in relationships, whether it be romantic or not. So that brings it to something I saw. Jesus also told the disciples that you are the light of the world, like they are. And so God and Jesus are the source of light. And the disciples are more like the moon. They're reflecting to others. And I think that model has been abused so many times, whether it's in the concept of marriage, like you have a man, it's kind of more like the sun, the masculine principle, and you have the woman, it's like the moon and the feminine principle. Really what should be happening is a man and a woman get together, they make children, and then the mother can reflect the father's light onto the children and love them, and the father can provide, and together the mother and the father like raise the kids in a kind of a safe container. And everything the mother offers and everything the father offers is necessary for those kids. They need every single bit of it. And this can be other relationships too. This can be professors in school and students. Professor shining the light, male or female, on the students and then reflecting it in the world. It can be religious. It can be like a priest reflecting it to the congregation. It can be, you name it. And it can be any human to any human, just reflecting that light. And I think it's really important, and it doesn't require you to have the sight. You have to be able to, it's almost like the third eye. You have to open your third eye and see the truth. People will use illusions to try to control you and make you think that God is something it's not. Get you to blame God for things, which he is responsible, but it's all part of a bigger plan. You're taking one thing out of context and not putting it in context of everything that ever has happened or needs to happen. The fact that evil exists so that light can come and cast it out. You can have a victory. You can't have a victory without a loser. We'd rather that loser be the darkness. So I think it's important to go back kind of to the beginning of this episode where I was talking about the impossibility of someone being their sight having been brought back to them when from birth they've been unable to see. And it brings up like a great quote that I saw today, and today that's how I knew that I was supposed to record this today, because it said, as I pull it up, a lot of people ask for signs and then reject anything that arrives because it looks too small, too ordinary, or too easy. The proof may already be here, but your standard for evidence keeps dismissing it. And I think this is really important. I feel like I've been saying that a lot. I just need to cast that phrase out of my mind. But letting small proof count doesn't mean exaggerating reality. It means receiving the evidence that is actually present instead of demanding that it arrive in the most dramatic form possible. Today, let one small piece of proof count. Do not inflate it. Do not dismiss it. Just let it land. Let reality land the way that it is without putting spin on it. Everything in our society is spun to no end. A self-image that can receive small evidence is far easier to build than one that rejects everything until it becomes undeniable. And this is something that came to me when I slept a few nights ago. I woke up and I was thinking, don't wait until you're desperate to trust in God's plan. God's plan is happening all around you without your participation. So along the lines of what I've been saying for a while now, I've tested it all out. If you're listening to this, I'm 35 years old. I have rebelled against God nearly every way that you possibly can. There's maybe some I haven't thought of, or also a handful that I wasn't willing to do. But at the very least, I've explored every thought. I've imagined. And I'm telling you, if reality was any more to your liking, it wouldn't be worth living in that reality. If you just had control of everything, it all wouldn't mean a damn thing. Free will, the same way that God wants you to choose Him of your own free will, is just as important between you and God as it is between you and other people. And I think the most frustrating thing in my entire life is when, I'll tell you, the second most frustrating thing is when other people, I can tell, there's some people that I just know they're not going to get it. They haven't had enough life experience. And that's purely a situation where you just wish them well and tell them that you'll always be there for them. But there's another category. That's probably third. And the second category is people who you know, based on your interactions with them, your conversations with them, you've known these people for over a year. And you've had deep moments, and you can tell they know what you know. You can feel it. There's a connection. And then they willfully shut their eyes. That is the worst. Because all you want to do, all anyone wants, me included, is to not be alone. When I realize that somebody has seen the things I've seen and understands that experience, it just feels nice, to be honest, to not feel so alone for a second. But to have that person shut their eyes because they just don't want to deal with it. Instead of being in a small group with you, they'd rather shut their eyes and go back to society at large. That obviously hurts. But the most hurtful thing is being that person. When you wake up to the fact that you willfully shut your eyes. That's the most painful thing you can go through. For me, it was a little over 2 years ago when I woke up to the fact that I willfully was shutting my eyes to avoid pain. And all that pain hit me all at once. And in that moment, you're still faced with free will, two options. God still, out of abundance of grace, gives you two options in mercy of just coming back to the light at any time. You can, if you're listening to this, you can come back to the light at any time. And it's going to hurt, but then it won't hurt anymore. But all that pain came down on me all at once. And then within about a month, I was fine. In fact, I was better than I'd been in years. I didn't realize about 10% of that pain was assaulting me at all times. And when it finally hit me 100% and I just let it go, it was over. And that's grace and mercy. And then since then, anytime someone has closed their eyes around me, I've kind of felt the pain of my own self doing it, which allowed me to have empathy for them. So, like, nothing could be worse than, like, when you realize you closed your own eyes. And it can honestly help you help other people open theirs and deal with that pain, feel it, and also let it go. And it might be a month that they need. It might be a couple months. It might be different for everyone. I have no idea. But you can assure them that it's going to be okay. But yeah, once you felt that pain, like, no, there's no other pain that can mess with you. You just have to. I think the biggest thing is you have to accept when somebody's closing their eyes and they're not going to open them. And some people will use that. They'll close their eyes and they'll say, oh, if you just try a little harder, I'll open them. And they have no intention of opening them. So just becoming wiser to, giving people warmth and inviting them to open their eyes, but realizing some of them are just going to close them again. And it's that easy. You can just shut your eyes again. The moment you start feeling the pain, you just go back to where you were. And in that case, as it's becoming easier and easier for me, you just let it go. You let them do it. As much as we want to help people, people have to help themselves, and that's it. So my message in summary is, don't wait to get with the program. You don't have to test out everything. If you're listening to this and you're tired, don't feel like you could spend your entire life testing. And boy, I went on an accelerated timeline. I tested a lot. And I just found there's no better way to live than in the light. It's not a thing. All those other roads will eventually close down, and God's weird in that he'll let your free will wander. He'll let you wander as long as you need to come back to the light and to stay there permanently. There's just no way around it. It's just not possible to get around it. If it was possible, I would have succeeded. So, just know that. And know that if you choose to continue trying to find a way out or around, the obstacle is the way. The only way out is through. It is true. Stoics knew it. People have known it for thousands of years, and yet we continue to try to test. And I think it's all the more satisfying for God, the harder you fight when you do finally get with the program. I don't even feel like I lost. I was genuinely, in a weird way, I was seeking God the whole time. It just how much it hurt me was kind of up to other people if I was vulnerable to other people's decisions, and ultimately though myself, because if someone else can hurt me, it's because I chose to make myself vulnerable. Sometimes you have to, and sometimes it's not a good idea. So the longer, earlier, and better you listen to God, the better life's going to go for you. Facts. And even without your participation, the plan is still in motion. You can be a part of it, or you can talk your way out of it. But just remember, if you talk your way out of it, you're always welcome back in. You may not like what you have to do to get back in, but you will be welcomed with open arms. So that's enough for today. But we'll be back in 2 weeks for the last episode, talking about Lazarus. So, until then, we'll see you next time.